I think what you said about fiction is true for non-fiction also, at least in the way I work. The thing is, I'm not working in the academic space, right? Although I have a PhD and all of that, I'm not part of a university. I'm not an academic. So it's not like I've a core set of themes and I'm going to spend all my life working on those set of themes in that academic space at more and more granular detail. I'm very much a public facing sort of person. I'm writing my books very much with a general audience in mind of a broader set of people who are going to read these books. And therefore, what's happening in public does play a role in figuring out which book I want to do when. For example, my second book, The Rebel Sultans, which is on the history of the Deccan Sultanates, I knew I always wanted to do that book because there wasn't a book on the Deccan Sultanates. When you think of India's Islamic history, most people think of the Mughals and the Delhi Sultanate, and they leave it at that. And they forget that the Deccan had these fabulous sultanates, which were mostly Shia states, oriented towards Persia, not to the Mughals. The Mughals saw them as enemies. They were the pre-Maratha states. Barely anyone knows much about these states. And I grew up in Maharashtra, so I had a sense that these states existed, and I knew I wanted to do a book on them at some point. What really hastened the project in some ways and made me put pen to paper was the fact that around the time I started this book or published the book in 2018 is also when there's a lot of this whole jingoism, hyper-nationalism, religious nationalism, all of that coming up in the country. And in some ways, you're also part of a certain society, right? And while you try not to get any biases into your work, at the same time, you're also part of a broader social fabric. And I was like, okay, I'm not good at giving lectures. I'm not good at tweets, and I'm not good at that whole social media fighting on Twitter kind of thing. So I was like, how can I contribute to this discourse without being preachy, without trying to sort of push something, which is my personal view? And I was like, let me just go in and highlight an interesting part of India's Islamic history. It has its good and it has its bad. It's not like these sultans were all wonderful people. Many of them did burn temples and enslave people and all of that. But the point is, I just wanted to highlight that slice of Islamic history because I thought at that time it was also in some ways relevant and it would make a contribution to the broader discourse in the country. And that's why that played a role in getting that book out. And with my third book, the book of essays, Courtesan Mahatma and the Italian Brahmin, same, because I sensed that among the young readers, among young people in general in this country, there was an appetite for history, and yet there was something blocking them from accessing interesting, good history in a way that they didn't feel overwhelmed. So I thought I must try and sort of plug that gap one way or the other. So it varies. So I would never deny that things around you, can't play an influence on how you choose what to do at what point of time. And my new book also, which is on the modern Hindu identity, we're living, it's 10 years into the age of Hindutva, as it were. Naturally, these conversations are happening around me. I did this well before, actually. 2011, my master's thesis was on Hindu nationalism and Hindu culture and modern Hinduism and all of that. So I already had an interest in it. But then it took me a while to put it out there. But again, I think context makes a difference, especially for writers like me who are public facing.